Oh my gosh, yes. So I am wearing the same outfit, but I am wearing a different undershirt and, of course, different underwear. But I decided that I wanted to wear the same thing because after I was done, I decided to change my clothes into shorts. But I like to wear sweatsuits for my Facebook Lives just because it's comfortable and I don't have to worry about, anything showing or anything like that because I don't like to wear a bra. So, and women shouldn't have to wear a bra all the time, but sometimes you have to just because of how guys can just not take their eyes off of stuff. Strangers. So anyways, that's kind of why I do what I do. But as you can see that I am a lot more diverse. I mean, as far as just the art, the music, and what images I put together, what music I match to those images. I'm far more diverse than people think. Not that that's really anything that's special, but I do have artistic qualities, okay? Excuse me. And I do like colorful pictures. I used to take photographs of everything. As you can see, I've done that. I've posted pictures. I used to paint stuff. I used to draw stuff. I used to do so many things as an outlet because of all the kinetic energy and internally, like kinetic energy in body, mind, and spirit. And so those that have been through a lot of kinetic energy in their lifetime, in body, mind, and spirit, they will have a lot of energy matched with diversity and intelligence, data, memories. And it really isn't a bad thing. So as long as those demons of energy from the kinetic energy, those demons from the energy from the proteins don't cannibalize you. Okay? That's the thing. And so I'm telling you, behavior modification and programming people is an art. And it's been done for centuries, for years and years and years and years. And I'll tell you, the sciences community have it down to a science. They have it down. Yeah, they will develop anomalies, and we see it in the population. People who are science experiments that didn't meet the requirement, didn't have the desired outcome, and they're like a loose cannon. They're somewhere out there doing whatever they're doing. And we even have parents out there that think that they're programming their children correctly or properly or whatever based upon their clan, their people, their culture. And maybe for all intents and purposes, they are on some level until the environment changes. Okay? And so when you think about what a virus is, because now that we know what virus is, it's not like a particular protein because everyone has diverse proteins. It is an algorithm. It is an energetic algorithm. It is a type of energy that then develops a script. That script is written by the energy that is being affected, or the object that's being affected by the energy. Okay? Now, we know that hackers, they will upload different scripts. They'll take like their USB, put in some malware, put in some kind of code that will upset a whole mainframe and operating system. We see that in the movies. Okay? You can even do that by mistake. You had something that had a virus in it. You take your USB port, put it into someone else's computer, and you just uploaded a virus into someone's computer. Okay, that's like that's like taking a V. But now, is that computer system equipped to handle that type of anomalous script? And does it have, and since computers are run by people, and the computer is only good as its maker and its end user. And so even though you may come across viruses, whether it's something you directly put into your system or something you found in the public arena, like the internet, is it strong enough to isolate that script, isolate that energy, and cordon it off, and then push it out wherever it needs to go, or not allow it to upset the homeostasis of your computer? Okay? So with humans are the same kind of thing. We're like computers. And we've made that assertion before. We've made that correlation that humans are like computers. And we're only as good as our last programmer. And if your last programmer has so much, has imprinted on you for generations and generations, because your predecessors and you're the offspring of the predecessor keeps the culture going, keeps that genetic line, that belief system, that religion, that politics, that scientific dogma going, then you're only as good as the last programmer until you or somebody else changes the programming. And if you don't ever change the programming, then that's fine. You could be a legacy products, which is what Microsoft has dubbed some of their old products, like Windows 95 is a legacy product. MS-DOS is a legacy product. So when you think about it, like I said before, there's a lot of humans out there that are legacy products that will not evolve, that will not ever transition to be like a Windows 10 or a Windows 11, that will forever be a Windows 95 and bear Windows 95 children with a little bit of shades of Windows 11. But the programming of Windows 95 in that child is predominant. And so they'll die with that and with a few shades of evolution from their current environment, assuming they can handle their current environment. Okay? And so, yeah, humans are like computers. You're getting programmed out there as we speak. Some of you are resisting the new programming. Some of you are taking it on and finding a way to assimilate and understand all sides of the issue. And you're seeing the demons are coming out of people right now. The demons are coming out. It could be coming out in a cold or a flu. Demons are coming out where someone's sucking the toes on some guest in a hotel. Some manager of a hotel is just sneaking into guests' rooms and sucking the toes. It's like before, people can hide, right? They can hide. They can control their urges, hide behind all these different layers of fronts. Excuse me. Spitting. But now with these frequencies, there is no hiding. Even I sometimes feel so impelled to speak. Well, I have a lot to say. I have a lot of life experience, a lot of things that I've seen and done and seen. And I'm like, holy shit. Excuse me. I can't believe I seen this and accepted this. And I didn't say I accepted it. I just seen it, but it didn't faze me as anything like bad. But now as I look back on the memories, because my mind is very clear, I've released so many demons. I released all those layers that try to hide the past. And so some of these memories, like when I was at that Jesus cult and this guy, he was in a wheelchair and he couldn't speak and he couldn't really move. And his wife gave him to the Jesus place and they put earphones on him and made him listen to Bible verses all day long. Now, I'll say, if you can't speak, if you can't speak, you can't move. You could barely even give but you're conscious. Okay? Like an ALS person. You can't speak, you can't move, but you're aware, you're conscious, you hear stuff, you can process stuff, but you can't communicate. You can't even say, like, hey, stop it. Okay? How do you know that person who is mute, who is quadriplegic, how do you know they want to hear Bible verses on their through the earphones all day long? How do you know that they want to hear that? How do you know that's not developing more demons? What was their intention by doing that? Was their intention to chase away Satan with those Bible verses all day long with the ear stuff, or were you trying? And so when I look back on the things that I've seen throughout my travels, where I wouldn't blink an eye, it was like, I'm in a Jesus cult. That's what they do. Okay. Did I look at it as abusive? Well, this is what they do. This is the wife giving her husband, who can't do anything except sit in a wheelchair, and she's just giving him up to the cult. And what does he do all day? All day long, sitting at this big long table in the middle of this house. He's listening to Bible verses all fucking day long. All day long. That has to be torture. Now, maybe he likes it. I don't know. his wife is a born-again Christian or something like that. But how do you know? There's no way to know. There's no way. You can't ask him, hey, do you want to hear these Bible verses all day long? All day fucking long? And so I'll tell you, there's a lot of programming going on, and some that would borderline even actually be literal abuse. Like literal abuse. And so the demons are coming out. Like right now on Facebook, the demons are coming out of people. Because remember, we've gotten very comfortable in saying what we need to say on Facebook. We've become very comfortable in confronting each other if we have those issues with different people. We have become very comfortable in a lot of things on Facebook, on YouTube, on social media, which is a good thing because now we get to see where people stand, what they think is normal, what they think is okay or not okay. We get to see everything. We get to see what evil or good lurks in the heart of mankind. We see people even who to make a point not to say anything controversial. We see people who purposely withhold many aspects of them because they're afraid to be exposed, or they only show certain parts of themselves because they're very conscious of their image. And so even what's not being said on Facebook, social media, YouTube speaks volumes as much as what is being said. Okay? And so I'll tell you, when you actually pay attention to your community and you stand in the shoes of different people coming from a very particular perspective, it's eye-opening. It's awake. It's like, holy shit. It's like taking off the rose-colored sunglasses and you see the world for what it is, not for the image that was given to you, not for the dreams that you thought the world was about, or the fantasy. You're seeing the magic disappear. Because when I did this Facebook Reels, I'm telling you, the music, when I'm listening to the 1960s music, and I was listening to that even as a kid, listening to the radio, my parents had like albums upon albums, and we would listen to that music, and then all this music. So this music from the 1960s is coming up, and then even I'm like Googling music about magic, and I'm like, oh shit, I recognize this. The group America, she can do magic, and that whole song. And then you see then how we have programmed women to look sexy and hot and something to be served up to a male. And you also see the hypnotization of males, of those women, as well as men who have to look a certain way to hypnotize the female. And so then you see the magic, the fantasy behind all of that. And that was developed from MK Ultra from the 1950s. Because you look at, the 1900s, 1800s, the females were bustier, they were bigger, they were Victorian, they were covered from head to toe. And then in the 1920s, they started breaking out of that image, started wearing like less clothes. Okay, you see the evolution of body image and what is appropriate to wear in public. And then you see, as you see from the 1900s and on, there's less clothes on the female and even on the male. Now, people are practically naked out there. And what are we trying to accomplish here? Well, there's a lot of things that are going on that are in the works. When was it started? As far as the evolution, the sexual evolution, revolution, it was even before the 1960s. There was sexual evolution in the 1920s. Sexual revolution in the 1920s. The flappers. The bathing suits that were skimpier, showing your ankles. Okay? So now you're seeing the demons and people coming out all over Facebook. You see who's showing their bodies. You see who's whining about something, whether ex-boyfriends, men, women, dating, mommy issues, daddy issues, the government, their sicknesses. Some people are very, very sick right now. Yeah, I'll tell you, I felt this last week super bloated. I don't feel bloated anymore. But I definitely, we had another shift in the environment. Oh, I feel the heat. I hear the ringing in my ears. Some of them are really deep and long and resonant. What are you going to do? You just got to deal with it. You got to deal with the heat. When that happened, like yesterday, that happened, and I said something like I heard a long beep, and I forget when it was. I think it was like 10:20. Then a couple hours later, I ate some food, and I had to take a nap. Like, I had to take a nap. And even when I don't take a nap during the night, I don't sleep all the way through. You see what I post and see what when I wake up, for whatever reason, okay, I'm so clear-headed, I'm not groggy, and I see something, I'm like, oh, I'm going to write about this at freaking 2 a.m. When usually maybe 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever, I would be like, there's no way I'm writing that kind of deep thought process, reacting to something that I see out there. I would not be writing to that clarity, to that in depth at 2 a.m. There's no way. I'd be like, I'm going back to sleep. Don't wake me up. Because I know that when my husband, a couple of years ago, more than that, when he'd have to get up early in the morning at 3 a.m. and wanted me to help him wake up because it's so hard for him to wake up at that point, and I just like, I needed my fucking sleep. Oh, I would be so a bear. I would be like, don't ever get in the way of my beauty sleep. Now I could wake up and just be like ready to go at 2 a.m, 3 a.m. It's like 5:46 right now. I was ready to go even before drinking my coffee. But I go through my process, doing my process of updating my phone and checking my email and looking at my bank account and doing all the things I have to do to maintain my daily stuff. Take a shower, brush my teeth, dry my hair, find the clothes I'm going to wear. I mean, it is a routine that does, it's just a maintenance schedule that I honor every single day. And it keeps order and balance, and it keeps me sane. It gives me a reason to get up in the morning, and I have something to talk about. But usually during the day when I'm watching stuff or doing stuff, I find things to talk about, because social commentary about the world, I mean, what are humans here for? Are we here just to go play around and mess with people and just have fun and that's it? Or is there another side to life than just having fun and fucking with people? Are we trying to also improve ourselves, improve the world around us, improve our surroundings on some level without going bankrupt, without taxing ourselves and destroying ourselves in the process? Because I know I was posting about Gen X. Now, you know that Gen X is another category. It's just like saying you're a Democrat, Republican, Christian, Catholic, Jewish, Muslim, starseed. Well, also the generations are another religion. And that, the reason, so I recognize that, and the reason why I recognize that the Generation X is another religion is because when I see people who are ex-addicts on Facebook trying to explain or admonish someone for discounting their journey. And so they're like, well, don't let a narcissist discount your journey for being an ex-addict because it took so much out of you to get over your addiction. And and they just kept going and going. And it was like, oh God, I hear the victim in this person. I hear the victim, the prey, the victim. And I'm just like, okay. And so, oh my God. So yeah. So you see that, like, so you're seeing that all over Facebook. You're seeing, the ex-addicts. And so the Gen X, the ex-addicts. And so then I'm responding to that by going like, what the hell? And that's when I wrote about the ex-addicts. And then I realized, you know what? I'm getting judgmental on this person. Why am I getting judgmental? Because I see it in myself. And I had to go and so as I was pointing the proverbial GUNSs to that direction, then I had to go and point the GUNSs to me, because Gen X, and you saw that reel that I posted that I made myself about Gen X, because I have used that. It's on my website. I'm from Gen X. I definitely have differentiated myself from someone who's a boomer, a silent generation, a Catholic, Christian, millennials, Gen Y, all that. And so then I realized, ooh, whoa, now I have to look at myself here. So these are things, the things that bother you about other people are definitely the things that happen within you. That's one of the main things about doing what I'm doing, is that when I am critical of everyone else out there, and I am, oh, you can best be sure if I'm critical about you, there's something around in my world that is exactly like you that I haven't figured out yet, but I will. And sometimes it just happens like that, where you mention about somebody else and you look at, oh shit, I'm doing the same fucking thing, and I'm adopting the same thing, and I'm justifying the same thing. Oh, wow. And then see, here's the thing, when you can turn the guns back at you, then you have every right to turn the guns back over there too. That's the freedom. Because when you turn the guns over there and you don't ever turn the guns at you, when you think about it proverbially, then you come off as, well, I mean, hypocrisy, not even hypocrite, because you're not a hypocrite when you think about it, because you haven't even understood yourself. Hypocrisy means you understand both sides, but you're claiming one side, but you're saying you should understand both sides and be both sides. But hypocrisy is where you pretend like, well, not pretend, where you claim that you're one-sided, but you actually understand the other side, but you only claim one side, but you also claim the other side too, but you're not being honest about it. But no, not even a person who doesn't understand how to point the guns back at themselves, they're not hypocritical. They're just completely fucking unaware of who they are. They're like a zombie. Because being hypocritical means that you're aware. No, they're not even fucking aware. They don't even get the luxury to have that term hypocritical. That word hypocritical is actually a gift of awareness. And it also has shades of like deception. But it still means you're aware, whether or not you are upfront about that you're aware that you also take the other side. But yeah, when someone doesn't know how to point the guns at themselves, proverbial guns at themselves, they're so fucking unaware, it's unreal. And yeah, you can't speak to people who are not aware of themselves. And that is an awareness. When you are aware of yourself and your own bullshit that you put out there to the world, that's evolution. Because it means that when you're aware of what you do based upon what you see in others, and you're critical of others, and you seem to be critical about yourself, then you have room to change and stop the behaviors. But if you're not even aware of your own behaviors, how do you stop it? So then you're like a zombie. You're just strictly reacting to everyone around you. And that's it. There is no evolution. It's all everyone else's fault. They're all bad. They're this, they're that. And that's most of our society. And again, you can't convert those type of people. You can't, because they're not even aware enough to even convert themselves, to even see that as something possible. And so when you think about it, there are a lot of zombies in our society, so many. And they're not bad people. You just got to remember, you don't want to waste your time trying to get them aware of shit. So that's why I speak to the general population. I don't target my sites on any one specific, because that's not for me to do. And again, you could be talking to a zombie that is completely unaware of themselves, like completely has absolutely no room to evolve, and have absolutely no intention to evolve or change or do anything different, or even look at themselves as, what are they doing, that they would have an issue with somebody else. And so then that's how you save your energy. Okay? And so you're seeing everyone's demons come out. And so definitely I see it all over the internet. I see everyone's demons coming out. And those that don't say anything at all, that's a demon in of itself. You're hiding something. Oh no, I'm just being private. Well, okay. Should I divulge everything? No, you shouldn't divulge everything. But there's a reason why you don't say anything on your Facebook. It could be job, it could be image, it could be a lot of things. But part of, now this is my opinion, doesn't mean it's fact or true for you. But what has helped me get to another evolution is hearing myself talk. like literally hearing myself talk, listening to myself, hearing myself talk, make connections. Like I make connections faster when I hear stuff because all the five senses are involved. And what I thought I knew when I was just thinking it myself, when I actually hear myself, then another awareness, another connection, another neural pathway has just been developed. That's evolution, when you can develop your own neural pathways, another awakening, another evolution, another connection that no one can take from you. And the only way that would deteriorate, only way that those connections would deteriorate is if you withheld food from yourself. Any kind of symptoms you have from evolution, physiological symptoms, or even psychological symptoms, is when if you were to anesthetize it with herbs, extracts, drugs, surgeries. That's the way you lose those connections when you have symptoms and you anesthetize them. And you use turmeric and honey and apple cider vinegar and all those antibiotics that are sweet and sour and spicy. That's the only way you would lose those connections that you make. And so the magic of intelligence, building intelligence, kinetic energy. Okay, we know that magic is the kinetic energy. We know that the MK Ultra, all the CIA stuff is all about molding people physically and intellectually, playing the experimentation games. But the magic is also you hearing yourself, the energy, the playback. It's you putting your mind to things that are expanding your brain, your body, mind, your spirit. Let me tell you, the environment is going to physiologically tax you, and you're going to have to react to your environment and whatever demons are within you that are trying to get out, or you need to foster the offspring. So the environment is going to help your physiological body keep going. You obviously have to help it too with milk, meat, cheese, eggs, fruits, vegetables, salt, water, all food in the food supply. But you are the one that's going to do the magic with your brain. And part of that magic is talking, speaking. And if you have trouble talking and speaking, you're like a mute. You're not going to get the full intelligence if you don't hear yourself speak. And again, that takes time to develop, because then you'd have to organize your thoughts. What are you going to say? Yeah, you can go goo goo gaga, goo goo gaga. That's what babies do. That's how babies develop, is how they get the chaos, and it finally gets organized into words and sentences and paragraphs, and then they're self-aware, and then they have the ability to learn new things and experience things, and that's the gradual process of growing up. And so babies know that automatically. It's when the babies cry, that's also another way of energy release, energy retention, signaling the body to go through an immunological process, of which then mothers and caretakers pacify their babies or find ways to stop the baby from crying because they can't handle the energy. But what if it's necessary for the baby, but we don't understand? Sound is kinetic energy. Sound can make or break you. It can develop intelligence, and then you organize the sound into letters and words and numbers, paragraphs and sentences and all that. Or sound can be something that will then split the atoms and split your intelligence and deteriorate you. And so that's why sound therapy can be really detrimental to people who don't understand why they're using that sound therapy. Because if you're using any kind of therapy, it's to decrease your intelligence, to decrease the life in your body, because you don't want to feel the evolution. But sound can also increase intelligence if you organize it and make the connections. But you also have to hear yourself, not other people all the time, but you have to hear yourself. So what I do, this is what I do. I just go onto Facebook and I just talk. And that's what I started out doing a couple years ago, is just I talk. Even if it sounded like I was talking about nonsense and I was, gibberish and long ass monologues, which I still do, but it helped me make the connections. And so And so that's part of increasing intelligence, is just listening to yourself speak about anything. It could be about babies, it could be about volcanoes, it could be about mountains, and whatever subject matter that you are well versed in. Hearing yourself talk does so many magical things. That's the chemistry again, the kinetic energy. That's the intelligence. That's increasing your intelligence. That's chemistry. Okay? And so what are viruses? It's just a frequency. It's an algorithm. And it has specific numbers. Okay? Frequency numbers. And so how do frequencies get translated into numbers? And then those numbers and the string of numbers with decimals and all that get translated into then a name. Like the Greek alphabet. Alpha, beta, delta, gamma, omega, whatever the Greek alphabet. I don't have it all memorized. But it's good to memorize it because the Greek alphabet actually is the frequencies. The Greek alphabet is measuring sound. So when you hear the Greek alphabet used out there in the weather world, in the CDC, when it comes to viruses, you know it's all frequency. But the reason why there is a therapy attached to those frequencies is because people are releasing their demons. When you have so much destabilizing energy, frequencies, that cause your body to release the mucus, those are little frequencies attached to proteins. Those proteins will attach itself to the nearest life and upload the information, and then people will have an immunological response to it. Some are not equipped to deal with that. So yes, there are therapies that are in the medical world that will help you develop antibodies. If you don't, I would call them secondary antibodies because you have primary antibodies. But why there is such a response is because your antibodies are developing, and what you're getting from that therapy, everything is kind of fighting each other. I mean, it all will come out in the wash if you know how to release and assimilate. So nothing is poison, but people are not prepared for that energetic reaction. So that's why there is a pushback. But that's what viruses are. They're basically the frequencies, and there's name to those frequencies: the flu, influenza 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay? But why are there offshoots? Why are there family? Because it's how those frequencies cause specific proteins in your body to react, and they mutate. And so there's predominant proteins that are observable, because every single, like the flu, AIDS, COVID, all of them have specific frequencies and offshoots, like family frequency. Look at your family. You have like 10 people in your family. They all have specific frequencies. Some are a little bit, they're a little bit different because of offshoots and mutations. Slight number changes, slight chemistry, elemental changes, but there's still a predominant platform that it came from, and it evolved from something. So look at your kid. That kid's a different frequency, even though you're all your last names are the same. Your DNA footprint is slightly different, but there is an actual genetic predominant footprint that shows relatedness. That's why when you going on Maury Povich and say, "Oh, you are the father," they do genetic testing to see if there is genetic similarities that would say 99 chance you are the dad or the mom or whatever, the dad, not the mom. Okay? So that's frequency. You are a frequency. Your whole family, Smith, Ingersoll, Birdie, whatever, you're all frequency, and your kids are offshoots if you have children. And you have proteins in your body that are offshoots. So viruses are frequency algorithm that brings up all of your predisposed issues. They have different names based upon the frequency. And again, the Greek alphabet is the name of the frequencies. Alpha, omega, alpha, beta, whatever. When you get a virus uploaded into your computer, it is an algorithm. It is a frequency that jumbles up and causes chaos. They have specific scripts and codes to cause a frequency shift in your internal operating system. And that's like forcing somebody to listen to Bible verses every single day. You're forcing a frequency on them that could probably be deteriorating them and developing demons. Okay, so that's what people don't understand, that even the Bible is a frequency. It is like a virus. Any kind of script that is just a constant with really hardly any changes, and you're saying that every single day, that's like getting doses of frequencies. And then over time, that deteriorates people because there's no evolution. They're getting the same frequency every single day. Their kids get the same frequency every single day. They're not allowed to evolve. They're not allowed to change. And if they do change, then that frequency gets forced on them again. Just like that poor guy sitting at that table who's like in the wheelchair, who can't speak, who's a mute, who can't even move, having the headphones put on him, and he's forced to listen to those Bible verses every single fucking day until he passes away. He's probably going nuts hearing that same thing all the time. But you wouldn't know this because he doesn't have the ability to speak, to defend himself, to say, maybe I've had enough. That's abuse. When it's so constant and there's no evolution, and it's being forced down you by everyone around you. And so then your body releases different frequencies attached to the proteins used to attach itself to the nearest biodiversity. So that's when you are listening to a frequency and your body has to release. And that's when people go on Facebook and they speak the word of whatever, or they are bitching about this, and that. And so they infect somebody else with their belief system, their lifestyle. And if that person is weak or doesn't know how to just move on, they get trapped and they get drawn into that frequency. They get tractor beamed into those words, that emotion, that belief system. And they're held hostage unless they're strong enough to break free. That's the thing about when you are getting uploaded by a virus that is so strong. And that's politics, that's religion, and that's science dogmas. It does trap the weak in not evolving, into just staying put. That there is no movement, there's no progression, there's no evolution. It's just now hearing the same thing, the same mantra over and over. It's like watching a broken record. Just look at your friends and family, look at your Facebook. You'll see the evidence. Because if you're not moving, if you're not evolving and moving forward, you're regressing, moving backward, or you're just like on a treadmill. You're walking, but you ain't going anywhere. That's essentially what you see out there on Facebook. People are walking, they're running, but they're on a treadmill and they ain't going anywhere. But they're winding down their clock. It's pretty amazing to watch. And so, yeah, when you get a virus uploaded into your computer, it is an algorithm. It is a frequency that jumbles up and causes chaos. They have specific scripts and codes to cause a frequency shift in your internal operating system. And then your body releases different frequencies attached to proteins used to attach itself to the nearest biodiversity. That's what viruses are. They are a frequency shift that are held inside proteins. Earth is one big protein. Somebody influences a frequency shift and affects everything in its surroundings. So if you want to take back your life and stop the deterioration process, you must release some of the life-sucking energy from your world. Even calm down your exercise regimes, because that is the main reason why people are deteriorating very quickly in a highly aggressive environment. Because they're running faster. They're not going anywhere, but they're running faster. They're starving themselves. They have issues. Some people are around them, suck the life out of them. You're seeing them running that treadmill, running so fast and so hard. And you're seeing what used to be a very balanced person. You're seeing them losing life force. Just put in, a person who looks relatively balanced and healthy, balanced, and have meat on their bones, and they're on that treadmill continuously. Then you see the collagen leave their face. You see the hair going gray. you see the skin sagging, you see the fat leaving the body. They're being sucked dry. Because all that energy of the scripts being pounded in their head, and they're running and running and running, but they're not going anywhere, and they're just winding down. They're winding their clock down. And so even calm down your exercise regimes, because that is the main reason why people are deteriorating very quickly in this highly aggressive environment. Release unnecessary demons like excessive friends and family, as well as little microbial stowaways who take more than give back, and then reconsider your diets. Maybe the reason why you need to fast or stay away from food is because you're not properly processing the nutrients, because you are harboring demons who are misplacing the energy. So yeah, so maybe, you eat all food in the food supply, which is great. If you're not releasing, then you're just gaining more mutations of the demons inside that are now splintering off, and developing new armies running against you, sucking the life out of you. And so that's also why the aging process and the obesity process, or the deterioration process, along with obesity and emaciation, happen because people aren't releasing the demons. Yes, they're eating everything, but they're feeding the demons that are not allowed to release. They're feeding demons that are actually working against them. They're feeding the traitors in their body. And so maybe the reason why you need to fast or stay away from food is because you're not properly processing the nutrients, because you are harboring demons who are misplacing the energy. In other words, you're starving. Starvation is the number one reason, or the only reason, why people die from heart attacks and strokes and bad choices, also known as natural causes. So yeah, they could say, yeah, they died from a heart attack or a stroke, or they died from, drowning in their own bodily fluids, or drowning in their own mucus and all that. But when you think about it, it's starvation. Because if you had all the necessary foods, even the electrolytes and the milk and the meat and the eggs and the cheese and all that stuff, if you had all the necessary foods, your body would be able to release, and it wouldn't have so much stagnation to cause lack of oxygen flow to your brain, to your heart, or cause your body to allow mucus to pool in your lungs and drown you. If you had the necessary nutrients, I wouldn't even say exercise, because if you had all the nutrients like ionic salt and water, coupled with a bunch of food, all food, milk, proteins, your body would be pushing things through. You'd be pooping. But when you take away the things that are ionic, and you take away the sugar, and and you're not reinforcing the walls of your arteries and capillaries and in your brain and in your heart, now you're so weak and you're atrophied. Then when an energy frequency comes through called Passover, right? And there's a jolt of energy, and the body goes into like a start, like it's trying to push something through, like it just got hit with a wand of magic. You don't have what it takes to deal with that energy conversion. It's like done. There is now a blockage. You're done. That's why people die from natural causes, because they're starving and their body cannot process and push things through the body. And so that's why heart attacks and strokes are the main reason, the number one reason that's mentioned in the medical books. But they would never say starvation, because people are like, oh, I've eaten food. I mean, look, they give the elderly Ensure, right, which has milk and other stuff, but obviously it's not enough. Because why are they dying? Because they haven't had enough nutrients throughout their whole lifetime. They've had food taken away from them systematically. And then they end up in a nursing home on life support, or barely eating anything. Or they're eating a bunch of stuff, but it's working against them. They're feeding the demons because they haven't released the demons. So starvation is the number one reason why people die. Like everybody, as far as natural causes. And that's, in the first world, that's holy shit. In the first world, how do you have starving people? Because they're on the treadmill running, and they ain't going anywhere. And they have scripts in politics, religion, and science pounded into their head to the point where they can't move. They're like that paraplegic quadriplegic guy sitting again at that table, forced to listen to Bible verses for at least 8 or 9 hours a day. And so, yeah, when you hit a kid or a person, place, or thing, an animal, you are building rage in them. The kinetic activity causes energy to build up as if they don't have if they don't have a proper release process, it could bite you in the ass. Then society pays for it. The animal turns on you, or society gets to deal with whatever you just beat into submission. And you know that happens in developing countries. It happens overseas in Semitic countries. And we can't stop it. Even Americans have done things to even themselves. And so we're not innocent of that. And so here's the thing. Kinetic energy. Now, if you want to build yourself up without somebody putting their hands on you, is you've got to deal with your symptoms. The environment is going to give you the kinetic energy. You got to deal with your own symptoms, release the demons, bring in the food, deal with that nutritional kinetic energy, and then feed your brain everything you can to survive and find a way to assimilate to the new economy and figure out where the world's going, what jobs are going to be there. Feed your brain something that's going to transition and give you that pressure to perform, to save yourself, to keep yourself alive. But when you have kids who have predisposed issues, all bets are off now. Now it's a crapshoot now, what we're developing out there. Because we have been taught, Gen X especially have been taught corporal punishment. And so you can only imagine what's going on with these kids nowadays from Gen X. So Gen X isn't always like the best, is because we're independent and creative and all that shit. We have our own issues too. Impatience, putting the cart before the horse, and then also trying to get people to perform and act very quickly. I was the same way, okay? But so now we're dealing with people who are using corporal punishment on their kids, who are like millennials or even, future generations that think that corporal punishment is the way to go. And you're building rage in that animal, hitting an animal, and you're building rage in that child, okay? So corporal punishment as a behavior modification doesn't always have the desired outcome you expect based upon what you have been researching, what you have researched. So we're now seeing we are seeing it now in the population with kids who have been microbial corporal punished through the pharmaceuticals, as well as abuse from parents who think that hitting their children is toughening them up, and or psychologically abusing them is the appropriate to toughen them up. And so, yeah, when you're taking antidepressants, people are taking antidepressants and they're having kids on top of that, and there's rage issues. Imagine what kind of kids can come out of that. That's the 1960s, 70s, 80s. That's why you have all these serial killers. These kids that have been weaponized by their parents. You saw what happened with that school shooter. The parents had to go to court because they knew this kid had a gun, and the parents weaponized that child. That's also what goes on. It's not always just the government developing these things. They do their own experiments to see exactly what's going on so they can recognize indicators in the general population. And with social media, and kids are just free to say whatever they want because they don't have any boundaries. So they say whatever they want, and they do. People may call the police, but the government can't see everything. Can they go and say, okay, well, we see you say something. We see that's an indicator of something. Can they arrest you? They have to wait for something to happen, then arrest you, and you hope that whatever happened didn't take down a bunch of people. But that's the thing, is you are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And so, yeah, even though you see indicators of some propensity of violence in somebody on the internet, doesn't mean they're going to do it. Now you got to wait for them to do it. And then you're like, okay. And so in a lot of ways, the government's trying to show you what is going on at your neighbor's house that you have no idea what they're doing or how they're doing it. So now you know why there's a surveillance society. Now you know why there's CPS. Now you know why they're doing behavior modification in the sciences field. But we've allowed this to happen because of the vast amount of human experimentation. But what was it for? To advance humans. And I don't know if there's a right way to do it. I don't think there is any right way to advance humans without collateral damage on some level. That's what I'm figuring out, is that maybe it had to be done. And it sucks that there's collateral damage. It sucks that there have been people who've been used as experiments. It sucks, but what else are you going to do when you know people are doing this shit in their own home and there's no one sanctioning it, but they're just doing it, even out there in the rural communities. When girls are being molested by uncles and by neighbors and by family members, and no one believes them, it's not that the government came in and said, okay, do it. They're just enacting whatever was taught to them. And where did that come from? Who the fuck knows? And then there are specific behaviors attached to that. And those behaviors do come out in speaking, in art, in music, in video games. Okay? And so there's a lot of rage out there because of people who have absolutely no attachment to the government, but their parents decided upon themselves to go and toughen up their kid because they got wind that this is probably the thing to do. I want my kid to behave, and look at that kid, he's not behaving. Look, parent isn't spanking them, so my kid's better because I thrashed them, and so they don't do shit. But now this kid has rage in them. How is it going to come out later on? How are they going to deal with tough issues? How are they going to manage stress? Are you going to beat the next person up to release the stress in them? Is that what you taught them? The only way to relieve stress is to beat something else up. See, and now so as I'm talking, because I have my own feelings about stuff, but as I'm talking, I'm seeing now why things are the way they are and why they have been the way they have been. Because can you only imagine what some of these kids go through with parents who haven't even had any kind of behavior modification training? They just belittle their kid. They have rage on their child. That poor kid is scared fucking shitless of some of their parents. And that parent is high school graduate, not even that, have some menial job. They live somewhere where it's very poor and they're stressed out, strapped paycheck to paycheck, and their kid isn't performing. And so they just psychologically, maybe even physically, wail on that poor child because they want their kid to perform, and the kid's not, and the parent's stressed out, and so the kid gets the brunt of the stress because the parent was taught by their own parents, this is how you deal with stress. That's what's out there in the population. That's what a lot of these kids out there are dealing with that are acting out. And they don't have to be under some kind of government experiment. It's just parents that don't know what the fuck to do with their own stress. That's what's scary. And so we're seeing it now in the population with kids who have had microbial corporal punishment through the pharmaceuticals, as well as abuse from parents who think that hitting their children is toughening them up, or psychologically abusing them is appropriate to tough them up. That builds rage and bullies in the schoolyard, as well as in society. The wounds do last, even though you might get a desired outcome. It's not always desirable for the person receiving it. And so when someone says the ends justify the means, pragmatism is a double-edged sword. Then you're just thinking of now. I want my kid to perform now. I want this person to perform right now. They don't care how you feel in the future or how that's going to manifest. The magic from all that kinetic energy and the magic could turn into Satanism, or it can turn into something like Jesus, okay? And that's still a very double-edged dichotomy. But that's the magic and the occultic energy in abuse, in hitting as a way to modify someone's behavior. That is occultic behavior. So it is despicable to watch people also beat their animals into submission. It is horrific to watch. I've seen people do that. I couldn't say anything. But I felt bad for the animal. But I couldn't say anything. Why couldn't you say anything? Because it wasn't my place, and it would bring a lot more stuff. And also yeah. Sometimes it's dangerous to confront people who do that kind of stuff. You don't know what you're dealing with. And should you report them to the... You could, but what would that accomplish? I'm telling you, people who beat their animals, it is so prevalent out there. It is so... That's why I just kind of stay to my own. I don't really hang out with too many people. Because you're going to see stuff that you really can't... You can't go and save everything. I can't save that animal. I can't save that person. I can't save that child. I mean, yeah, if I see a child being hit by something, yeah, I'll call the police and all that. But I mean, that's the thing is that most people who are abusive, either they have people around them that accept it and let it happen, and well, I don't hang out with people. That's why I don't hang out with people anymore, really. They don't do it out in public. And so you really have to be in the inner circle to see that. And so, very rarely would you see something where you have to call the police, unless it's like, in a very crowded area where you have more of a propensity to see somebody doing something like that. And then you can call the police, I guess. So that's why I stay unto myself, because I've seen things in my world that I'm just like, fuck. You want to save this thing, that thing, this person, that person, but you can't. Because even you trying to save someone or something, it'll bring so much more back on you. Because again, karma is a religion where you think, oh, I'm doing good if I go and report this and do this. No, you're going to get not only the good, oh, you're a good person for reporting, but you also get the demons. And so that's why, if I don't have to, I don't get involved in anyone else's bullshit. I don't. I let the law enforcement take care of it. If things happen. But why would you help that? Because again, you have to measure out. Are you worth sacrificing your peace and your sanctity and all that stuff for something that is probably going to pass away anyways? Because at this point, there's so many animals, so many children, so many people who are suffering so much. It's almost like you just have to go and just keep your world relatively. That's the suffering in the J world. When you finally wake up to what's going on in the world that you live in, then you don't want to really be around too many people, because you see stuff that you're just like, it's hard to turn the cheek. So if you don't see it, you don't have to turn the cheek. You know it exists, but you don't have to then be encumbered with saving the world. And that's difficult. That's walking away is the hardest thing of all. Walking away from almost everything out there is the hardest thing of all. It really is. Because the fantasy world of, oh yeah, everything is okay, it's gone. No, it's not. It's worse than you ever thought. And so then what do I spend my life doing? Pointing it out and just leaving it out there. But you will all have to figure out your world. I'm not changing no one. I'm not saving anyone. I just put it out there. You guys figure it out. And so I've seen it and heard it even from those who are animal handlers in the canine department. I've seen someone where they have a training dog and they want their dog to do something, and they kick the dog in the side to get them to move. And this is with a dog handler in the canine department. It shocked me to see that. What can I do? This is a canine handler. I can't say, well, you shouldn't kick the dog in the side. So I don't want to deal with people. I really don't. Because if they think that's okay and they do it right in front of you, imagine how bad it gets behind closed doors. And so any kind of kinetic energy activity builds up rage and energy, and wires get crossed. Okay, and don't get me started about the medical and the veterinary system. Just because you went under anesthesia doesn't make the act of cutting into someone or something any better. Even using religion as a tactic to behavior modify someone to release the demons through religion. Because I've seen religion being used as an abusive tactic to someone who was incapacitated, who did not have the strength to take the earphones off him. He was quadriplegic. Forced to listen to Bible verses hour after hour after hour. I know they thought that forcing Bible verses into his brain would conquer Satan. Are you sure about that? Or else why would you do that? What if you were developing more demons by doing that? Maybe figure out what the root of the issue is. But no, some people use the Bible. Versus trying to beat it out of someone or person, place, or thing, or force them to hear words that potentially are casting spells on them, causing them to deteriorate even more, torturing them. Okay. I know people say don't judge someone if you haven't walked a mile in their shoes, but what's done is done. And so, yeah, I mean, people can look at me like, well, what, you making Sugar deal with all that stuff without getting her treated or putting her down is torture. That probably was. Believe me, I'm not proud of that situation, but it needed to happen. I had to go through that process, realizing that she wasn't going to turn around, and that, yeah, if she hadn't gone through those surgeries, would there have been a chance? Potentially, but there's no way I can go back, and there's no way to go back and look. But yeah, people can turn right back at me and say what you did with Sugar was horrible and all that, and I would probably be like, I could see where you're coming from on that. But again, you have to remember that we don't know people's history until it comes up, until you see when you realize what abuse has happened, and you see the lumps and bumps come up on your skin and on your body, cancer, disease, chronic illness, tumors. And so what we saw with Sugar was the abuse of the veterinary system that came up during that process, because she was looking like a young little puppy. Yes, she went through all these different seizures, but she snapped out of them and she was fine. But as the environment was getting even more aggressive, yes, her fur was coming up. So I guess her, what do you call that? She had a lot of the hormones of her hair, skin, and nails. That's why her nails were always growing long, and I always had to go and get them cut like all the time, because she had a hormonal imbalance where her hair, skin, and nails were growing faster than everything else. And so as she was releasing those demons of the past, and that growth wanted to come back, it also triggered her hair, skin, and nails, her hair to grow softer and not so brittly like it was before she was going through those processes. So we saw how the veterinary system programmed her, and that they mean for her to pass away at some point. And that's why we'll never get an animal again, because there's no way to guarantee, there really is no way to guarantee, unless biotech is now allowing the world to live longer than a specific time. Okay. But we had to revisit the trauma. And I thought maybe she can get through that, but no, it was going to get worse. That's why I put her down. She didn't die in my house. I had to put her down because she had to revisit that trauma, which is all of you are right now revisiting that trauma. And so she's now in peace, I guess. But that was showing you the trauma of the medical, holistic, veterinary system. That, yeah, you can hide behind the antibiotics and all the hormones that are in the drugs and the antibiotics and all that stuff. But eventually, the spell wears off. When the spell wears off, now you get to see all the trauma. And so that's what you've experienced with me the last 7 years, is all the trauma, all the shit, the bullshit I went through. And it comes up in lumps and bumps and rashes and pain and mucus and energy release and defensiveness and wishing things were a different way and all these things. And that's what I'm saying. That's the demons being released. And it can be torturous. Some people have so many demons, so much trauma to them. There's no way they can fucking do what I'm doing. There's no fucking way. My dog couldn't do it. She couldn't get through facing her demons. There's no fucking way. So she had to be put down. But I had to see that process for what it was. Because if I didn't go through that process, then I would wonder, could she have turned around? But now we know with humans out there, they're going through the same fucking thing. They've had trauma after trauma, operation after operation, and they want to go and release the demons. They're going to have to revisit everything. Will the holes open up again? Will they have, who the hell knows? Will that growth come back again that was removed 5 years ago? Right now, people are dealing with growths that are coming back. They're dealing with their body getting another diagnosable condition because whatever that growth that was scooped out or redirected through the medical prescription stuff turned into another diagnosable exotic disease that is related to their last diagnosable condition that was treated. But could they make that connection? No, because the medical system would be like, oh, you have a new disease now. Oh, yeah, now you have this. Oh, it's in your family. Okay. And they accept it. They don't look at it as like, well, if they hadn't cut it out and treated it with this and they would have released it, it didn't have to turn into another family member of a disease. Because all disease in the body is all connected and related. They're just offshoots, just like your family members. They're all related. They're all little demons. When you think about it, you're all related. But so are all the diseases in your body. Every single diagnosable condition is a family member. It is connected to the last diagnosable condition that you were treated for. Because that treatment was an antibiotic. That antibiotic caused a chemical reaction. That chemical reaction turned into an offspring. That offspring may have turned into intelligence that at one point may have turned into relief. But it also turned into something later on that was going to torture you and turn into another diagnosable condition of which you take another antibiotic, cause another chemical reaction, fornication. Now you have another offspring. And now you have generations and generations and generations of microbes in your body, offspring, 69 trillion, I guess, that are all fighting to be king of the mountain. That's the torture. That's the pain. That's people are trying to release that. People say, oh, I'm feeling my nose tickling and all this mucus is coming out. And they can't seem to get ahead of all the mucus coming out. Yeah, those are all the offspring that you've allowed to metastasize from all of your drugs and all of your operations and all of your antibiotics and tinctures and herbal remedies. That's all trying to come out. And then you're trying to stop it again with another fucking antibiotic, developing more demons. But could I tell people that? No, because they don't see it that way. They say, oh, I don't want to feel this way. Give me another fucking drug. Give me another inhaler. Give me another this. You're just developing another offspring, another child to torture you inside. Another colony forming unit of bacteria that's going to torture you. It's going to be more than what you can handle until you can't handle it, until it becomes so big, it stops the oxygen from going to your heart, your lungs, your brain. That's the death process. And also starvation, because you have to feed so many animals, so many offspring in your body. And it's sucking the life out of you. So, I know people say, don't judge someone if you haven't walked a mile in their shoes. But what was done is done. Now this is for the future. The Vampire Diary said that once you get your humanity back, you will mourn what you ever did because of what you were taught. When you finally wake up to what you have done to yourself and your children and everyone around you, you'll be like, holy fuck, what the hell did I just do? What did I contribute to? What did I support? Why did I do that? Because you were taught this. So some people will have a hard time looking at themselves at the way they were in the past. It's okay to look back. It's okay to move forward. But first, you must release those demons if it's even possible. Okay? And so, what is pragmatism? Being pragmatic means doing whatever works to get a desired result. The end justify the means. Okay? I don't have to read the definition. And so if you are proud of that you hit your kid, or you're proud that you were beaten as a child to keep you in line, it's not something to be proud of, because those demons are still there and they do metastasize. Not everyone channels that rage into something useful. And even if they do, when you have a child, what kind of rage is going to build up in them when you practice the same thing that was done to you as a kid to your children? So when you were beaten as a kid, okay, and you're like, okay, and you channel it fine, and maybe you have to take some drugs and all that stuff to deal with some stuff, and now you have a child who has inherited all that rage. And so you see the generations of children that are being produced that came from people who have abused drugs, were on pharmaceuticals, antidepressants, had issues and stuff done to them as a child. And now they're trying to assimilate and be a respectable member of society. And so they have children on top of that. What are they producing? And so I could even see, and I follow some schools out there and people out there, and I look at the children's faces. Some of them look like the people you see on the news headlines after another school, SHOOTING. You can see the Sanpaku eyes. You can see the blankness in their eyes. You see the hair kind of covering them. And it's like a dull, unemotional look. Like they're not really there. They're going through the motions, yes, playing the game. But you see the eyes, there's something dead in the eyes. It's really eerie. When you study all the school shooters out there, and then you look at the kids, you see some of the kids that look so happy and so joyful, and that's great. And you see the other kids, like they look like they're so dark. Not melon dark, but you see the soullessness in their eyes. That's scary. That's somebody with rage in the making, that when they get triggered, and then we have video games, we have obviously access to GUNSs. It's scary out there when you finally can recognize the outcome of pharmaceutical abuse, pharmaceutical punishment, corporal punishment. It's fucking scary. That rage is building up, and it's only going to get worse. So I'm tired of seeing schoolyard bullies and adult bullies. Well, if you were a schoolyard bully, you're the same thing as an adult. So, I mean, I'm an expert in this because I used to be a kid, and I probably had my own issues. But people were also bullies against me, even in I remember first grade, and I look at them now, like, as they're older. I go stalk people's Facebooks from, like, from way years ago. And I can see in their face, if they saw me face to face, they would be like, oh, look who, yeah. You can already see the assholeness in some people's faces that I used to deal with in first grade. And I follow them and see them where they are now today, and I look at their face. It's not any different. Homogenized. You see the intolerance in their face. You see the uppityness, the high and mighty. Yeah. So y'all mothers are about protecting your kids from everybody, but who's protecting them from you? When you say the government doesn't give you choices, actually the government has given you so many choices, but are you giving your kids a choice? When is it appropriate to give your kids a choice? See, some mother told me a while back, oh, the government's not giving the kids a choice. They're not coming into your fucking house and telling you to do this and that. But you as a mother are not giving your kids really any choice, because you have a way you want to raise them. You have a specific idea, thought process, political, religious, scientific way of looking at the world. And believe me, you're not going to give them a choice to see something different, because you have a perception that when they see something different, it's going to be violent. It's going to make them turn them into something that you have no guarantees can turn them into anything. But there's that fear, okay? So y'all mothers and fathers are about protecting your kids from everybody, but who's protecting them from you? When you say the government doesn't give you a choice, actually the government has given you choices. Are you giving your kids choices? When is it appropriate to give your kids a choice? When is it appropriate to introduce to them to the world? At what point will they learn tolerance to diversity? What is harm? Is seeing something different harmful? What are they seeing? Yes, everyone has a right to raise their children, but what are you raising them with? What are you instilling? What are you installing into them? Instilling into them? Installing a program, right? Are you raising a future bully? Someone who has the potential to be intolerant to something that is different. And I was different in first grade, and I had intolerance even from my own peers. Oh, I had people going like, saying stuff, and I'm like, keep on saying that, keep on saying that. And I would retort back. I remember to this day some of the bullies in first grade. Mrs. Clark's class, first grade, yeah. And then you have Mrs. Patton, Mrs. Avery. Oh, I remember the schoolyard bullies in first grade, like as if it was yesterday. Okay? Are you raising a future bully? Someone who has the potential to be intolerant? Are you raising a ticking time bomb? As a former child, possibly bumped into parents as a kid, I'm an expert in the matter. Because now I have very clear memories of how I was as a kid, what I dealt with as a kid, and then watching those kids that I dealt with grow up to be adults. They haven't changed. They're still the same. And believe me, they would be intolerant of me and anyone else that doesn't fit within their paradigm. And so as a former child, possibly bumped into parents as kids, I'm an expert in the matter. Everyone is if they're willing to stand in the shoes of their childhood and who they were. I agree some things in the media have taken diversity way too far to the point of introducing sensitive matters that may not be appropriate for that person at that time. Which means that you have to be very careful where you go. And even then you can't always predict what you're going to come upon out there in the public square. That's when you must differentiate between somebody's private lifestyle and what they are wearing and what they look like. If booty shorts are okay for a hot girl on the beach, right? People don't have a problem with girls in booty shorts. Remember, equality. Oh boy, feminism is inverted. And so I've seen that picture of people posting about that dude that's wearing girls' bikini with an obvious appendage in the front. I'm like, yeah, I understand. It's a little shocking to see, but what are you going to do? We're all about equality, right? Maybe not, but who knows? Oh boy, feminism inverted. Just because you can does not mean you should. However, who determines? And so social constructs are changing. Some people are abusing the fact that they can flaunt whatever they want. Abuse can be looked at as evolution. Again, that's a fine line. If you're not trained in behavior modification, don't fucking abuse your kid and try to get them aligned, because you will turn them into something that will run away from you, literally. That magic will get out of hand and turn into a demon. So holy shit, I don't know the answer. It's different for everybody. Do you risk early exposure and potentially let the genie out of the bottle? Or do you withhold early exposure and then risk the person becoming drunk with exposure or completely intolerant? Okay, so when do you expose your kids to diversity? And if they don't get exposed to diversity, it's just like saying, stay only in this area and that's it. But if you venture outside of an area and there's microbes that you have to assimilate to, can you handle that diversity, that introduction to new microbes? Well, that's the same thing with information, like concepts and also new truths. That's the same thing as seeing somebody that looks different. That a dude that you're used to seeing wearing pants now is wearing a dress with high heels. Okay? That's no different than taking a V. Can you handle that type of diversity? Oh, geez. Okay. Hold on. Who is... All right. Who is this person? Sorry. I have to see this. Okay. Newest. People comment on my stuff? Yeah. Here we go. Block. Confirm. See you later, Sabrina. All right. All right. Give me 1 second. She had a comment on that slavery post. But remember, people want to hold on. They're the worst slaves, that they have it so worse than somebody else. No. We all have it worse by so many different types of people. Okay, let me see. Hidden by this page. No. Okay. And the newest. Okay. Here we go. Delete. All right. She's gone. Okay. Sorry, I just had to deal with that. But that's kind of what we're dealing with, is that we have people that do not have the abstract thinking. They think that they're the only ones that own the word slavery. And when you think your culture owns the word slavery, yeah, now you will be very discriminatory against everyone. That's reverse racism. When you think your culture is the one that owns slavery. And sorry. There's different types of slavery. They've softened the slavery nowadays, but it's still slavery. And I'll tell you, some cultures do beat their children that have had a culture of slavery, and they still beat their children. And that's what's scary. Because they don't realize that they came from that world and they still enact the same things. Okay. So, all right, let me get back to where I was. Jeez. Okay. But I needed to deal with that because the trolls, when they come through, because they don't like hearing new stuff, I deal with it right away. So, all right. Let me get back. Write that person's name down from my other account. But this is how I protect myself from crazy ass energy. It's not even just agility. Some people just can't handle new information. They can't handle abstract thinking. That's why we're in a great reset. And it takes a lot of intelligence to understand where a person's coming from without calling them a nutball, without calling them names, without going personal. And when you go personal to anyone, that lacks intelligence. That lacks intelligence above everything. Because you're not willing to see where they're coming from. And they haven't said anything to you. But that's what goes on out there with those with lower intelligence, is they have to insult a person specifically. That's the bullies in the schoolyard. People have not grown up. They're still living out their fantasies of King of the Hill in junior high and elementary school. And they teach that to their kids. That's why these kids don't have a chance out there with parents like that. That's why they are trying to guide reproduction carefully, because look at what these parents are producing. Someone like that. Okay, so there's an example. So if booty shorts are okay for a hot girl on the beach, remember equality. Oh boy, feminism inverted. Just because you can does not mean you should. However, who determines? Social constructs are changing. Some people are abusing the fact that they can flaunt whatever they want. Abuse can be looked at as evolution. Again, that's a fine line. Holy shit, I don't know the answer. It's different for everybody. Do you risk exposure, potentially let the genie out of the bottle? Okay. Do you withhold early exposure and then risk a person becoming drunk with exposure or completely intolerant? What is early exposure? Anything you think needs to be controlled. Okay? Like drugs, alcohol, perceived violent or sexual images. And so, God, did I write this twice? Okay, I guess I must have. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, people look at early exposure or late exposure or no exposure. Could be like alcohol, drugs, perceived violent or sexual images. And so in this environment, you're seeing your people are releasing their demons. Okay, so let me go back to that. When is it appropriate to introduce your kid to the world? When is it appropriate to introduce the world to your kid? What will they be able to handle? What can you handle? If you can't handle diversity, mom and dad, neither can your kid. Can you explain diversity to your child without going personal and saying it's bad, wrong, or whatever? Can you explain that without saying this person is subhuman? That's the thing with some parents out there. They don't know how to explain diversity without dehumanizing somebody else. And so when you are afraid to expose them to something that is different to you, then you've already implied that that person that you don't want being exposed to your kid is subhuman. That they are now a target to be dehumanized as that kid gets older. Because you've already dehumanized them just by the implication that they can't be exposed to that. And it just depends on what it is. No, I don't think early sexual images of somebody doing things is appropriate. But this is where we as a society have to figure out what is appropriate when we're out in public. At this point, that's a very fine line. That's a blurred line. And if kids do see, we accidentally went, when we were in San Francisco one time with our parents, and they had the Folsom Street Fair. My mom had to hide her eyes because there was some images of holy shit. Okay? But when you go into San Francisco during the Folsom Street Fair or any other places where they're a little bit more free in how they express themselves, you don't go there if you don't want somebody. So you stay in your homogenized zone. But remember, when you stay homogenized, when you stay in a very homogenized environment, when they finally grow up and they venture outside of that clan, of that homogenized environment, how are they going to deal with diversity? Or are they going to build a rage and bully somebody and harm them, try to destroy them? That's what you're risking. That's what you're risking. So it's a double-edged sword. You know, how much, when, and all that. How do you teach? Teaching tolerance to children in body, mind, and spirit will make them stronger and peaceful. But you homogenize them, there's no guarantees that you're going to get any kind of really good outcome because they won't be able to handle diversity or change or something different. And so I see some of that in the J crowd, but everyone's going to figure out for themselves. They're going to figure out for themselves. I can't be the one to say, well, you should do this. Let's just hope that you become tolerant yourself, mom and dad, and let's hope that there's a way that you can teach tolerance to your kids. And so in this environment, people are releasing their demons. Now you get to see what people's demons are. Not everything is what it seems. And you may not like the demons people are releasing. This person, hotel manager, could not control his urges when he was sucking the toes of a guest. Just like I can't keep my mouth shut when I'm releasing my demons. But I'm not breaking the law, and I'm redirecting the energy for good for myself and for the world without destroying somebody else or insulting them, showing that you can channel your energy to something constructive and honest. The person that was sucking the toes of the guests broke the law. What in his world thought that that would be appropriate on any fucking occasion? See, people are not, let me read what I said here. People used to control their urges when the environment was calm, right? Now people don't give a damn. Like they don't. And that's good to know because now you know where you stand, but now you know the world for what it is. Everything was in the bottle. Pandora's box was still kind of closed up tight. These frequencies have opened up Pandora's box. Okay? And then you're seeing people's demons come out. Here's another example of a demon. Ex-addicts use their past addictions as a badge of honor. Okay, so you overcame your addiction. Now what? Are you perfect and above reproach and can do no wrong? Okay, I'm a Gen X girl. But am I really Gen X? Is that who I am? No, not really. Right now, that's kind of what I'm identifying with, so I can kind of explain my behaviors. But fast forward, let's say a few years down in the future, I'm not going to be identifying with Gen X. That's not going to be a label that's going to be appropriate anymore because it's going to be irrelevant. Now I'm just a person who found a way to bypass dying from natural causes, and that now I'm just evolving to the economy and to the environment. Am I going to always refer back to my childhood? I guess if it gets resurrected, maybe down the road there'll be a film about me and either slamming me or saying, oh, wow, who knows? I have no idea. I'm not actively trying to look for that because there's still plenty of time for people to see that you don't have to die from natural causes. But it's too soon right now. So ex-addicts use their past addiction as a badge of honor. Okay, so you overcame your addiction. Now you are perfect and above reproach and can do no wrong. Overcoming addiction isn't the end of the road. That was just the beginning, because you use that addiction to cope with trauma. So you developed another trauma, just like taking on an antibiotic if you don't want to feel pain. You just developed another trauma, another demon. That was just the beginning, overcoming that addiction. But what did you replace it with? That's what you need to question. When you overcome one addiction, whether it's pot or hard drugs or alcohol, what did you replace it with? Can you even look at that? And so that was just the beginning, not to be used as a badge of honor forever. When you stop using your past as a way to justify your present, you finally overcome your addiction because it's not being used as an excuse for your current behavior. It's not being used as a weapon against how other people view you. So if someone says, well, and bringing up the past, using that as a way to control their behaviors and shut them up about whatever, well, obviously you still have issues because you keep people around you that keep resurrecting the past. And you're still reacting to them. And you're calling them all the names in the book, narcissist, abusive, this and that. Well, why the hell are you around them? Why are you even considering their information? Why are you even reacting to them? No different than me reacting to my trolls. Why the hell would I read my spam mail? Knowing that's where it goes. Why am I reacting? Because that was something that I needed to deal with. And then eventually when you finally release the demons, that doesn't become an issue anymore. It doesn't become something to react to anymore. You don't use your victimhood, you don't use your past as a way to or slam them. You chose to have them around you. When people say narcissist this and this person said this and oh my God this, why are they around them? If they're complaining about something, why are they around them? Why are they interacting with them? What benefit do they get? Obviously you're getting a benefit, so why are you reacting? Well, because you're keeping them around for something, as an excuse for you to use your past as a way to justify your behaviors. Right? So you finally overcome your addiction because it's not being used as an excuse for your current behavior. It's not being used as a weapon against how other people view you. Who cares how other people view you? I don't care what people think. If they want to abuse me, I will block and delete. People don't know boundaries because they're still children. When children don't know boundaries and they're not your child to discipline, you walk away. If they're a minor and if they're doing something that is illegal, then you call the police, let the police handle it. Okay? But there's so many children on Facebook, so many children through email, so many children on social media that don't know their boundaries and will entertain things that are not good for them, that will allow themselves to be abused by other people, and they want to complain about it. Well, there's a lot of children out there. When are we going to grow up, huh? So now you're responsible for your own behavior. The addiction has nothing to do with other people anymore. That's when you know you have overcome addiction, when you're not using your trauma as a weapon against other people and as a weapon in your arsenal to use and bring out whenever you want to feel justified in acting a certain way. So some people are addicted to being an ex-addict. And so please don't characterize this post as being narcissistic, because I have no relationship to you. I don't care what you do or do not do. I just see it And then I also recognize my own behaviors. And so it's actually helping me. So I'm actually talking to myself, and you happen to be also someone like me as well. So I'm talking to both of us. But I can't change you, but I can only change me. Maybe someone ought to say that there's always room to improve. Maybe someone believes moving forward beyond those feelings and release the demons. Maybe being an ex anything is not a badge of honor. It's a way to explain stuff. But at some point, ownership. Own your shit. And so I said that about Generation X and all that, right? And so when you stop leading with your wounds, you have room for so much more. If you live long enough, you can get the wounds out on Facebook. And over time, it will get buried with all of your other posts that go on top of that. Unless someone resurrects a past for a reason like religion. Which is why religion is all about re-traumatizing people with the crucifixion. Re-traumatizing them with all the atrocity that happened. Whether it was in Egypt or World War II. Religion is about re-traumatizing future generations to get something out of them. Okay? And that also includes the slavery of the 1860s and of civil rights in the 1960s. See that relationship, 1860, 1960? Holy shit. You see how programmed and planned our society is? That even the traumas come up in obvious patterns? It's not a coincidence. It's not organic. Okay? And so now we have children who have been given the gifts, the CRISPR gene edited gifts. Like I told you a couple of years ago, CRISPR gene edited kids, but that high neural activity, that high intelligence, the Mensa kids, extreme intelligence, it's great. They will give humanity something to work with. We will see what they develop, but there will be a suffering in the future. So don't think that because you didn't have a high IQ or your kids don't have a high IQ, doesn't mean they're less than. It just means that they don't have that kind of pressure and they can now have a better relaxing life when you think about it. Because when you think about that kid that has a high neural activity, they're built for a high capacity production. But eventually that will work against itself. That will start breaking down. And you just hope that their life is happy enough, rewarding to them, that it's worth it to them to produce on such a high level. Okay? And so those that are like type O at this point, you can develop the kinetic, you can develop the intelligence, the kinetic activity, release the demons. If you have any, get to a relative equilibrium where it's not so painful to release the demons, and also evolve and adapt. And you have the freedom to go out there and do stuff and know what you have to do to release the demons so you don't allow the world to cannibalize you. Okay? And so there is a way to have your own paradise, but you have to develop your own paradise. Okay? It's not something that someone gives you. It's not something that it's you develop your own paradise. Like when I make those Facebook reels, the music stuff, that was really for me because I love listening to that music. And I like seeing those images. It brings up like certain kind of hormones, the feel-good hormones. That's like my dessert. And if you happen to like it yourself and you like it, and you can watch it too. Okay? And so I developed it's like having your own DJ or having someone mix their tape for you. It's like a tape that has like mixing an MTV video. I mean, I think that was an excellent product that the metaverse has developed, was those Facebook reels. Because you see all walks of life, and you can develop your own world, your paradise. I don't even want to call it heaven. And so, summary is, a new study reveals an increased risk of psychological and physiological disorders in high IQ people compared to national averages. Researchers report 20% of the Mensa members with an IQ of 130 and over have diagnosed anxiety disorders compared to 10% of the general population or public. But it's not just anxiety, it's also physiological. When you start getting the neurological stuff. when type A and B start feeling the diagnosable conditions like muscular sclerosis, like fibromyalgia, like lupus, like all the different autoimmune disorders, because remember, autoimmunity is when you're producing so much kinetic activity that yes, you are smart. Yes, you could be gorgeous, smart, very thin and producing extremely well, and you're out there running or doing whatever stuff. But then the body's going to release it. And when you've stopped the body from releasing because of all the different drugs and all the different remedies and surgeries and everything else, then now you're tortured by the demons inside from that high neural activity. And that's right now most of the first world. A lot of America. We have a lot of extremely intelligent people because we're the last greatest experiment. We've had so many CRISPR gene edited people that stems all the way back to the 1920s, 1900s, 20s, 30s, 40s. And we have generations that are reproducing on that trauma, that high neural, high connectivity. And then we have behavior modification practices. And now here we are. Now look at the population. Look at people just releasing their demons. They can't control their urges. So staying home and staying safe is probably going to be your best bet in this environment when the demons are releasing, because they are. And we also know that the borders are opening up. They are busting in people from different countries, especially the southern part, and I get it. And even when my husband and I went to Dover, there's a huge migrant population. And that's fine. And they're looking for a better life. They'll be contributing members of society. Would we ever have to use any kind of warfare? No, we're all trying to live together. We're in a great experiment. America is dealing with now the assimilation to the world. South America, Mexico, people from Ukraine, people from Afghanistan, and we're all going to see how we're going to interact with each other and work together, be one world. Good luck, everyone. I hope you can handle it. Diversity, tolerance, peace. And so if you have an issue with whatever's going on out there, maybe you are intolerant. Bye.